The air in New Orleans hung heavy with humidity and the scent of magnolias as I, Samuel, found myself drawn to the crumbling gates of the old cemetery. Tales of the supernatural had long woven themselves into the fabric of the city, but none seemed as ominous as the curse said to befall those who dared disturb the resting place of the departed. Intrigued and fueled by a morbid curiosity, I stood before the moss-covered entrance, my heartbeat sinking with the distant sound of jazz drifting from the French Quarter. The cemetery, with its weathered tombstones and above-ground crypts, exuded an aura of antiquity. Spanish moss draped like funeral veils from the ancient oaks, casting eerie shadows that danced in the moonlight. The wrought iron gates creaked open as if inviting me into the realm of the supernatural, and against my better judgment, I stepped inside. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the rows of weathered tombs. As I ventured deeper, a chill settled in the air, and the silence became oppressive. My footsteps echoed through the narrow pathways, each one seemingly amplified by the weight of the stories etched into the stones. Legend spoke of a curse that clung to the old cemetery, a hex placed by a voodoo priestess to guard the spirits at rest. It was said that those who trespassed upon the sacred ground risked awakening the dead, unleashing vengeful spirits, seeking retribution for the disturbance. Despite the warnings, my desire for the macabre urged me forward. I reached the heart of the cemetery, where an ancient oak tree with gnarled branches stood as a silent witness to the centuries that had passed. The ground beneath it was marked by an unassuming tomb, weathered and forgotten. As I scanned the faded inscription, a shiver ran down my spine. The resting place of Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen. As I stood before the tomb, a low whisper seemed to emanate from the moss-draped branches. The wind carried a spectral melody, a haunting dirge that stirred the air. Ignoring the growing unease in my gut, I decided to test the boundaries of the curse that loomed over the cemetery. I cautiously circled the Voodoo Queen's tomb, each step echoing in the stillness of the night. The whispers grew more pronounced, as if the very earth beneath me held its breath. Unsettled, I hesitated, my eyes fixated on the engraved name of Marie Laveau. In that moment, the air seemed to thicken, and the temperature dropped, as if unseen eyes observed my every move. Suddenly, the whispers escalated into anguished cries, and the ground beneath me trembled. Panic seized my chest as the tomb of Marie Laveau emitted an otherworldly glow. The air crackled with energy, and shadows materialized around me. Figures clad in tattered funeral attire emerged from the tombstones, their hollow eyes fixated on the intruder who dared disturb their queen. A spectral procession unfolded before my eyes, the vengeful spirits of the cemetery rising to enforce the curse. Marie Laveau's tomb became a focal point, the epicenter of the supernatural gathering. The figures moved with an ethereal grace, their movements synchronized to the mournful melody that hung in the air. Desperation set in as I realized the gravity of my actions. The curse had been awakened, and the spirits sought justice for the intrusion. I stumbled backward, attempting to escape the spectral procession that surrounded me. But the figures closed in, their ghostly hands reaching out as if to drag me into the realm of the dead. In a moment of sheer terror, I tripped over an uneven gravestone, my hands scraping against the cold earth. As I fell, the spectral figures descended upon me, their voices blending into an otherworldly chorus. The air vibrated with an unseen force, and I felt a cold grip on my soul as the vengeful spirits sought to claim their due. Just as I thought my fate was sealed, a sudden gust of wind swept through the cemetery. The ethereal procession faltered, the spectral figures dispersing like mist in the night. The anguished cries and haunting melody gradually faded, leaving behind an eerie silence. As I lay on the ground, shaken and breathless, I realized that the curse had spared me, for now. The wind, carrying with it the whispers of the Voodoo Queen, seemed to convey a warning. The cemetery, with its ancient oaks and moss-covered tombs, had reclaimed its tranquility, but the memory of that harrowing night would linger in the shadows. Days turned into nights, and the experience haunted my dreams. The curse of the old cemetery in New Orleans had become a visceral reality, a tale of the supernatural etched into the fabric of my being. The city's jazz played on, the lively rhythms masking the spectral echoes that lingered beneath the surface. The old cemetery remained a forbidden realm, its secrets guarded by the spirits that had risen in response to the disturbance. I carried the weight of that night, a silent witness to the thin veil that separated the living from the dead. The legends of New Orleans persisted, and I, having tasted the darkness that dwelled within, knew that some curses were best left undisturbed.